So again, good morning. We will talk about the sexual self. So last meeting we talked about the physical self, no? Basically extension lang to ng physical self kasi sa physical self more on body image lang and yung lifespan, no? A bit about lifespan. So dito sa sexual self, well, pag-usapan lang naman natin is yung gasgas na which is yung sexual aspect ng mga sarili natin because we're humans and sex is something that is very important to talk about kahit ayaw pag-usapan ng mga nakatatanda sa mga dahilang hindi ko alam. Okay, so the learning outcomes of this chapter would be to explain the development of sex characteristics and human reproductive system, describe the erogenous zones, and understand human sexual response, understanding attraction, love and attachment, sexual orientation, identify the causes and consequences of STDs and early pregnancy, and reflect on the importance of contraception and reproductive health law. So kung medyo religious kayo, no, medyo mag-ready kayo ng slide kasi I will be talking about this in a nonchalant way. Ayoko maging awkward, no? So kaya ikukuwento ko 'to as straight as possible, no? Kasi kung di natin pag-uusapan 'to directly, hindi hindi niyo matututunan directly, okay? But I think most of you naman are informed about this. So parang review na lang, no? Ngayon kung di pa kayo informed, 'yan, buckle up your seatbelts and we'll talk about all of this stuff na ayaw pag-usapan ng mga nakakatanda dito sa Pilipinas. So, an important note at the outset, I want to make it clear that when approaching this topic on sexual self, it should not be as a biological process, but as a preparation to entering into and sustain an intimate, happy, and long-time relationship in the future. Okay. So, the development of sex characteristics and the human reproductive system. So, as mentioned nga last time, nag-start yung maturation natin usually during adolescent, especially sa ating development of reproductive system, no? So, yung mga primary sex characteristics natin are present, physical characteristics that are present at birth. So, yung primary sex characteristics, this is basically the the reproductive system. So, sa lalaki may penis, sa mga babae may vagina. So, yung ano na yun yung mga primary sex characteristics ng isang tao. Okay? So, meron din tayong secondary sex characteristics. And usually, yung secondary characteristics na to, lumalabas to sa adolescent or sa puberty. Okay? So, yun nga sabi ko, in mga parts, no? So, uterus, ovaries in men, penis, testes or testicles, scrotum, and prostate gland. So, itong mga to, ito yung mga directly involved sa reproduction natin. Okay? So, yung secondary sex characteristics naman developed during the onset of puberty. So, what are the secondary sex characteristics? So, for women, the earliest evidence of puberty are the enlargement of breast, menstrual cycle, widening of hips, enlargement of buttocks, and growth of pubic hair. Sa mga lalaki naman, testicular growth, sperm production, appearance of facial and pubic and other body hair, and deepening of voice are some of the first sign of puberty in men. So I think naalala nyo naman to na nangyari sa inyo to. Usually, mas maagang nag-puberty yung mga babae. No? Mas maaga silang nagmamature physically. And then yung mga babae yan, mga lalaki as always, late bloomer. No? Late silang tumatangkad, late silang nagkakaroon ng facial hair. No, yung iba hindi na nagkaka-facial hair katulad ko. And yun nga, depende talaga yan sa physiology ng isang tao. So, itong mga to, of course, iba-iba tayo, no? Kasi syempre depende sa genetic makeup natin, no? Yung, for example, sa mga babae, enlargement of breast, not everyone experience this, no? But menstrual cycle, I think most of women naman are experiencing this. Widening of hips and enlargement of buttocks, no? Minsan hindi kumbaga iba-iba, no? Meron tayong spectrum ng sizes kumbaga sa mga to. And then growth of pubic hair. Sa mga lalaki naman yun, minsan ang kasama din sa mga lalaki yung growth spurt. No? So yung growth spurt yung bigla na lang tatangkad. Kung naalala niyo meron kayong mga klase nun 'no, nung grade 3, grade 4 kayo, tinitignan niyo sila pababa. Tapos nung first year, second year high school na, actually minsan hanggang first year, eh, 'no, grade 7. Tapos nung grade 9 na bigla nakatingala na kayo 'pag tinitignan niyo sila, 'no, after 1 year lang. So, gano'n ka-late yung mga lalaki sa kanilang puberty. During puberty, testosterone and other androgens stimulate the development of primary and secondary sex characteristics and also increases sex drive. So, noong adolescent tayo, no, kung mapapansin nyo, mataas yung sex drive ng mga adolescent. What do I mean by mataas ang sex drive? They always think about sex. Okay? So, wag nyo nang ikahiya, wag nyo nang i-deny, no? Na nung mga adolescent kayo, eh, talagang yun na lang yung nasa isip nyo for most of the time. Kasi nga, malakas yung mga hormones niyo, mataas yung mga hormones natin. So, both male and female, yung testosterone, yun yung nagbe-bring up ng sex drive. So, walang namang masama dyan. No? Wala namang masama na magkaroon kayo ng drive or sex drive. In fact, that is good. It means that you're healthy. Okay? So, wag niyong ikahiya yun. Wag niyong ikahiya yun na dati medyo malakas yung sex drive ninyo. Kasi pagtanda ninyo mami-miss niyo yan. Hindi, joke lang. So ano yan, it's part of the process ng ating development. So the level of testosterone production is fairly constant in women. The ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone. By the way, yung testosterone na to, usually sa mga lalaki, mas malakas to. Mas malakas ang sex drive ng lalaki during adolescent, no? Ano yung bana? Parang bana yung mga lalaki. So in women, the ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone as well as small amount of testosterone, as I've mentioned kanina. So both men and women have sex drive. Okay? So don't misinterpret that. Merong may sex drive ang babae, merong sex drive ang lalaki. Hindi lang puro lalaki ang merong sex drive. Okay? So, ayun. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask. No? Wala namang masama sa pagtatanong. And estrogen promotes female reproductive capacity and secondary sex characteristics. So, mas maraming estrogen, mas nagiging female, kumbaga, yung katawan ng isang babae. Kaya nga pag nagpapasex change, iba, nilalagyan ng estrogen yung mga lalaki. And the production of female sex hormones follows a cyclical pattern on approximately 28-day monthly cycle. So, ito yung menstruation. So, the greatest production occurs during ovulation period when an egg is released from the ovary. So, yung 28-day na yan, hindi naman yun strict, okay? Alam ko yan kasi yung marami akong mga nakakausap regarding dito. Ano ako, chismoso ako, no? Dami kong kini-interview. Anyway, so yun nga, sabi, hindi lahat may 28. Minsan may iba 30. Yung iba naman, irregular sila, no? Minsan meron silang menstruation, minsan wala. So, it really varies from person to person. So, hindi siya ganun ka-universal lagi. Iba-iba kasi ang biology ng babae. So, ayun. The two ovaries produce, store, and release egg cells during ovulation, and ovulation can occur 14 days after the beginning of the menstrual period. So, reproductive system is, so yung menstruation, yun nga. Sa mga lalaki na hindi aware no, kung paano ba yung menstruation, it's basically maglalabas ng egg yung babae, no, and for 14 days, nandun lang yung egg, no, nasa fallopian tube. And then, kumbaga, ang nangyayari nun, yung katawan ng babae is piniprepare niya yung uterus niya to bear a child. Nangyayari to even adolescent, okay? So, yung mangyayari nun is mag-thicken up yung wall ng uterus. So, magkakaroon siya ng maraming blood na involved basically. And then, kapag na-realize ng katawan ng babae na walang sperm, no, na walang fertilization na nangyari, yung egg na yon is i-dispose niya. So, i-dispose niya yung egg, paano? So, ilalagay niya sa uterus, no, expel niya sa fallopian tube. And then, sasama yung blood na nag-build up dun sa period na kung saan naghihintay yung matres ng babae para mag-bear ng bata. Okay? So, basically, ang menstruation is a way of nature to punish you, women, for not bearing a child. Okay? So, that is ganyan kayo pinaparusahan ni ni Mother Nature dahil di kayo nabuntis, basically. So, uy, joke lang yun. Pero in a way, that's how we can see it. Di ba? Parang nagsasuffer kayo because hindi kayo nabuntis. Mahirap. Mahirap ang buhay ng babae. So, kudos on you, girls. And the reproductive system is a system of sex organs designed for reproduction or sexual function. So, the female reproductive system comprises of ovaries and fallopian tube, the uterus, the vagina, and the clitoris. So, itong mga to, yan yung mga yun nga, parts ng reproductive system ng isang babae. No? So, yung mga iba, meron silang 2 ovaries. I mean, lahat may 2 ovaries, but there are times na parang kailangan tanggalin yung isa due to some sickness like PCOS and so on. So, ayan. And then, kapag nagpapaligate, yung fallopian tube yung puputulin tapos ibubuhol. Okay? Para hindi na, kung lalabas man si egg, no, hindi siya pupunta sa, kumbaga, wala nang mapupuntang egg dun sa fallopian tube. So, kahit magkaroon ng sperm, walang mapupuntahan yung sperm. Okay? So, yan. So the male reproductive system naman includes the penis, the testes or the scrotum, prostate gland, the seminal vesicles, and vas deferens, and the epididymis. So, wow, grabe. Sa female, ang daming explanation. Sa mga lalaki, wala man. No? Kasi wala talaga explanation sa mga lalaki. It's basically, wala naman kaming monthly menstruation. No? Meron lang continuous production of sperm and semen na tinatawag. So yung mga yan, tuloy-tuloy naglalabas yung lalaki, no? And nababawasan lang yan every time na nag-ejaculate siya during sex or during masturbation. Usually, ang nangyayari kapag nasosobrahan yung stock ng ng sperm tsaka ng semen, nagkakaroon ng problem sa prostate. No? Yun yung main reason kung bakit nagkakaroon ng prostate cancer yung mga lalaki. Kasi hindi nila na-release ng maayos. Although, syempre, isang factor lang yun. Pero marami pang factor. Pero isang factor is yung hindi nyo na-release yung sperm or yung semen na na-stock sa epididymis, sa vas deferens, and even sa seminal vesicles natin. So, basically, yung sinasabi ng mga doktor, para maiwasan prostate cancer, you have to ejaculate at least once a month or at least twice a month or kung kayang everyday. No? Para hindi, kumbaga, para nababawasan yung laman. Kasi the more na maraming na-stock dyan, mas maraming chance na mag-mutate yung mga cells. So, doon nagkakaroon ng cancer. Okay? So, ayun. Okay, may tanong ba kayo regarding sa male reproductive system or sa female reproductive system?
Wala po, sir.
Okay, clear naman, no? Ilang beses nyo nang pinag-aralan to. So, next, sexual arousal and erogenous zone. So, what turns people on? So, human sexual arousal may be produced by direct stimulation of the body's erogenous zone. So, ang erogenous zone, ito yung mga areas ng body natin na nagpo-provide ng pleasure. Okay? So, of course, I think you have an idea. You already have an idea with your erogenous zone. So, you explored this, no? When you were in adolescent, especially males, because males are very explorative with these kinds of stuff. So, what are the erogenous zones? So, it includes the genitals, the mouth, the breast, the ears, the anus, and to a lesser degree, the entire surface of the body. So, ang erogenous zone, it's really different for most people. Pero ang main talaga na erogenous zone is of course yung genitals. Okay? So, in genitals, it's either the vagina or the penis. And then, of course, yung mouth, breast, ears, anus, no? And a lesser degree, the entire surface of the body. This applies for both men and women, no? Even sa mga men, sometimes they have erogenous zones on their breasts, no? Kahit non-existent siya kasi may nipples pa din sila. And then mammals kasi tayo. So lahat tayo technically have breasts. So, no? So meron andyan din yung erogenous zone. Now, sa mga lalaki, very simple lang usually ang erogenous zone ng mga lalaki. Ang main na erogenous zone ng mga lalaki is yung genitals. And lesser degree na lang yung ibang parts. Sa mga babae naman on the other hand, yan yung mas complex, no? erogenous zones. And with right stimulation, with right arousal, even their whole body, no, yung buong katawan nila can experience pleasure, no, if prepared properly, no, kung kumbaga aroused properly ang mood ng mga babae. Okay, so that is the erogenous zones. So, pauso ni Freud 'to. Pero matagal na nating alam 'to. So, I mean as a as a human species alam naman natin 'yan. So, one of the most basic sexual stimulation is masturbation or self-stimulation that causes sexual pleasure or orgasm. So, other sexual activities such as intimate kissing, cuddling, necking, petting, or touching the erogenous zone may be uniquely important to sexual arousal. So, ito, of course, you all know masturbation naman and how it works, especially males, no? So sa males, they will stimulate their penis. And then for females, they will stimulate either their vagina or their clitoris. So yung clitoris kasi parang yan yung smaller version ng penis. Okay? So, pero syempre, nauna yung clitoris bago yung penis. So, yung penis, it's just an enlarged clitoris. So, mas tamang term yung ganun. Now, yung masturbation, of course, ang goal niyan is yung orgasm. Okay? So, that is even, kumbaga, parang sa sex din yan. So, orgasm din yung parang peak nung sexual response cycle na yan. And then, there are other, no, contrary to popular belief, no, there are other ways to stimulate or to give pleasure to yourself or to your partner. Other than the orgasm itself, of course, intimate kissing, no, cuddling, necking, petting, or touching erogenous zones may be uniquely important to sexual arousal. So what basically ang tawag dito is foreplay. Okay? So foreplay is something that is very important, no, especially kapag later years kasi parang ano na to, it's not only a sexual act, it's also a form of intimate, no, or intimacy. Kasi parang you are exploring each other's body or something like that. So ayun, hindi masyadong na-emphasize to siguro, no, especially in the culture of the Philippines wherein hindi masyadong parang evil ang sex dito sa Philippines, di ba? When in fact it's not naman. So actually there are some disorders, no, may mga sexual disorders or sexual dysfunctions tayo na ang ginagawang treatment, no, for ano ba yung mga sexual dysfunctions like erectile dysfunction, problems in arousal, no, hindi na-arouse yung babae, hindi na-arouse yung lalaki, or sometimes even premature ejaculation, no, or delayed ejaculation. And ang usual na nagiging treatment para sa mga yan is usually yung foreplay. Tuturuan yung mga couples how mag-foreplay. Kasi itong mga taong may sexual dysfunction, most of the time, they do not do foreplay for so many reasons. And one main reason is that they think that sex is very bad. So therefore, feeling pleasure in a sexual way is something that is very frowned upon. No? Kasi parang syempre, meron silang mga kanya-kanya mga super ego na nagdidikta na sabi, wag kang mag-sex kasi ang sex ay sa demonyo or something like that. No? Even though mag-asawa na sila, even though kasal na sila. No? Kasi syempre, nandun pa rin si super ego. No? And one way to recover from that is to actually, to do foreplay. Because foreplay is also, kasi ang orgasm parang nagiging performance yan eh. And sometimes yung performance anxiety can cause some problems, di ba? So, parang mawala yung isip ng tao dun sa performance parang enjoy the process. Okay? So, process of intimacy, which is yun foreplay. Okay? So, I warned you guys, no? Pag-uusapan natin to directly and I will not beat around the bush. So, ayun. May tanong ba regarding dito?
Wala po, sir.
Okay.
Yan po.
Sige. So in many species, sexual arousal is closely tied to variations in hormonal levels. In humans, however, hormones play less of a role. Kung makikita niyo yung mga, for example, yung mga aso, no, na-arouse sila depende sa season. No, meron silang season, even yung mga ibang animals may mga season sila kasi yung mga season na yon usually hormones ang nagpapagawa nun. Ngayon sa mga tao, wala tayong season. No, every day is sex day para sa mga tao. If they want it, if they are in the mood, no, and then may consent with each other, they can do sex. Sa mga ibang hayop, hindi nagagawa yun. So in one sense, the brain is where sexual desire originates and where sexual behavior is controlled. So in a way, the brain is the biggest sexual organ in our body. So cognitive factors does play an important role in sexual arousals in humans. So culture also influences the expression of sexual desire. So culture is very important. It's very ano siya, a very important factor in determining how an expression of sexual desire is expressed, diba? For example, here in the Philippines, we are very conservative, so therefore the talk about sex and sexual desire is very conservative din, no? Hindi siya masyadong parang taboo siya, no? Kaya minsan yung mga bata, no, hindi sila aware kung ano ba dapat talaga ang ginagawa during sex because majority of our parents, no, or of our olden people don't really talk about it, no, in an open way with their children. Alam niyo naman dito sa Philippines, no, kapag bata ka, hindi mo deserve, ne, joke lang. Pag bata ka, parang minamaliit ka, no? Parang hindi sila, feeling nila bata ka pa din kahit adult ka na, no? Mapapansin niyo yan, kunyari kayo 20 plus na kayo. Pero ang turing pa rin sa inyo ng mga magulang niyo is parang mga bata, no? Kasi nakita nila kayong bata or even ng mga lolo't lola ninyo. So wala namang masama doon, no, in general, but there are some times kasi that you're already an adult and you do adult things. And one of the adult things that you do is all about sex. So minsan doon nagkakaroon ng problem din, no, sa culture na very restrictive when it talks about sex, no? So ayun, cognitive factors does play an important role in sexual arousals in humans. So imagination, di ba, is really a big factor in the sexual arousals in humans. Okay? So now, what are the phases of sexual response? So merong mga ano yan, hindi naman step by step, pero merong response cycle, no? Yung ano natin, yung sexual activities natin. So may phases siya. So si William Masters and Virginia Johnsons, actually these two are sex therapists sila. So sila yung nagpauso nung sinasabi ko kanina na foreplay as a treatment for sexual dysfunction. So inexplain nila kung ano ba yung response cycle ng isang tao. So they use the term sexual response cycle to describe the changes that occur in the body as men and women become sexually aroused. So they divide the sexual response cycle into 4 phases: excitement or arousal, plateau, orgasm, and resolution. So parang ano lang to, no? Parang story lang. So excitement, introduction, plateau, rising action, orgasm, yun yung climax, no? And then resolution is yung aftermath ng climax. So the excitement phase is beginning of the sexual arousal and can last from 1 minute to several hours. So pag yung isang tao, no, babae man yan o lalaki, pag na-arouse sila sexually, their pulse rate increases, blood pressure increases, breathing quickens, and the skin shows rosy flush, particularly on the chest and breast during this phase. Kasi nga, bumibilis yung tibok ng puso. No? So the nipples harden and erect in both men and women. And in men, the penis becomes erect. The skin of the scrotum thickens and the testes increase in size. So in women naman, the clitoris swells, the lips of the vagina open, and the inside of the vagina moistens in preparation for sexual intercourse. So sa mga lalaki, obvious naman kung aroused sila or hindi. But of course, hindi naman ibig sabihin na naka-erect yung penis ng isang lalaki, matik ano siya, no, aroused siya. Minsan may random random lang na ganyan. Random lang na nag-e-erect yung penis ng isang lalaki. But of course, pag aroused talaga yung lalaki, nag-e-erect yung penis niya. And then basically yun lang. Okay? So minsan yung nipples is nagiging nag-harden, but yun lang, no, simple lang ang mga lalaki. And then sa mga babae naman, the clitoris swells, so parang namamaga siya, no? And then the lips of the vagina open, so mas nagiging kumbaga nagiging open siya, nagiging receptive kumbaga yung vagina ng babae, and then at the same time nagmo-moisten, no? Parang nagiging, sabi nga nila, wet yung vagina ng babae. So this is in preparation, of course, for the insertion of the penis in the vagina. Okay, kasi pag hindi yan lubricated, of course, masasaktan yung babae. Kaya nga, hindi Kaya nga pag yung babae is hindi siya aroused, no, hindi siya excited, sexually speaking, sa pakikipag-sex, tapos pinilit ng isang lalaki na makipag-sex siya, it's very painful. Okay? Kasi yun nga, hindi lubricated kumbaga yung vagina ng babae. Okay, so in the plateau phase naman, the changes in the body continued. In men, penis becomes more erect, the circumference of its head increases, and releases a few drops of fluid. So parang naglalabas sila ng semen. Ang colloquial term dyan is yung pre-cum na tinatawag. So in women, the outer part of the vagina swells with increased amount of blood to that area, while the clitoris retracts under the clitoral hood but remains highly sensitive. So the outer lips of the vagina becomes redder in color. And breathing becomes more rapid, heart rate increases, body temperature rises, and blood pressure increases during this stage. So dito na parang nagkakaroon talaga ng sobrang stimulation, sexually speaking. So, minsan dito na nagkakaroon talaga ng intercourse, kumbaga meron ng penetration sa plateau phase minsan. And then, during the orgasm, actually lagi yung plateau phase. Diyan na talaga yung mismong activity of insertion of penis in the vagina. So, during the orgasmic phase, the orgasmic construction of the muscles and in and around the penis stimulate the release of the semen which contains the sperm cell. So men usually achieve one intense orgasm. So ang orgasm, it's different for males and females. So sa males, one shot lang. One time, big time. Okay? So once na lumabas na yung semen, nag-orgasm na siya. So mag-ejaculate siya ng semen. And then, yun na yun. Very pleasurable yung feeling sa men. And then in women naman, orgasm involves the contraction of the pelvic muscles that surround the vaginal walls and can happen multiple times. So sa mga babae, they can achieve orgasm not only once, not only twice, even sometimes 5 times. Sa Depende sa activities. Sabihin ko sana depende sa skill ng partner niya. Pero siguro, no, depende na lang din sa nangyayari. So, in a way, mas ano yung babae, mas napapagod yung babae pag nag-orgasm siya kasi maraming beses. If ever man ma-achieve niya yung orgasm. Sa mga lalaki naman, once lang. Tapos na. Okay? And then, dito nagkakaiba sa resolution phase. Kasi usually, ang nakakaranas lang ng resolution phase is yung lalaki after ng orgasm. Sa mga babae, after ng orgasm, usually, hindi pa sila nag-resolution phase instantly. Sa mga lalaki kasi instant yon. No? After nila mag-orgasm, boom. Tapos after siguro 5 to 10 minutes, wala na. Parang hindi na sila aroused, wala na silang sexual desire, no? Or kung meron man, parang yung katawan nila is hindi na nakaka-keep up sa kanilang brain, kumbaga, or sa kanilang mood. And then sa mga babae naman yun, yung resolution phase nila mabagal. No, usually mag-resolution phase pa lang sila after 15 to 30 minutes after ng kanilang orgasm. Kasi nga, mas sophisticated yung kanilang reproductive system. So in women, the clitoris, the color of the outer lips of the vagina and the lips of the vagina return to its normal state. But as I've mentioned nga, it happens more gradually compared sa mga men. Okay? So, do you have any questions regarding sa human sexual response?
Wala po, sir.
Wala. Okay. So, of course, I'm not encouraging you to do this, no? I'm just informing you, no? So, once na nagawa nyo na or once na gagawin nyo na, at least may idea kayo. Because it's very important that you are on the same page with your partner because yun nga, pag kunyari yung isa, hindi pa naman siya, yung babae, hindi pa siya aroused, so therefore hindi pa siya lubricated, tapos yung isa nagpilit, of course magkakaroon yun ng negative consequence, no, sa sexual activities niyo. And then of course kapag syempre na-associate ng isa yung sexual activities sa pain, magkakaroon din ng problem yun sa inyong sexual life in the future, of course, no. Tapusin niyo muna yung pag-aaral niyo, so after niyo mag-aral doon niyo na-explore to. But mas maganda ng informed kayo ngayon in a more formal way rather than kwento-kwento lang ng mga kaibigan or minsan sa internet. By the way, yung sa internet, yung mga no, hindi totoo usually yung mga nandun. So, 'wag niyo seryosohin yung mga plot points of course at saka yung mga ano nila, yung mga concepts nila about sex because that's very different, okay? Hindi yun hindi yun realistic, okay? So, yun lang naman. Okay, so next, we talk about, attraction, love, and attachment. So during adolescence, dating and courtship emerge and become increasingly important. So puberty is the stage when many boys and girls experience their first sexual attraction. So romantic love is especially important among college students. Agree ba kayo? Important daw ang romantic love sa college?
Pampa-motivation, sir.
Pang motivation. Akala ko distraction. Ako kasi nung nagkaroon ng girlfriend nung college, bumaba yung grades ko eh. Pero okay lang, worth it naman. Anyway, so attraction is a positive attitude held by one person towards another person. So, iba ang attraction sa love, no? So, attraction can happen instantly. Love is something that is built upon, and then attachment is also the same. So attraction, this is the first stage lang. So pag attracted ka sa certain tao, parang you like him or her. Whenever you see them, you are feeling good, you're feeling euphoric even, no? You're feeling inspired, sabi nga ng iba, no? Kapag nakikita mo yung taong attracted ka towards. So, yun yung attraction. Pero wala pang love doon, no? Pero nung adolescent tayo, minsan na-confuse natin yung attraction sa love. Kasi nga, merong barrage of hormones kasi ang katawan natin, and tapos sasama pa yung intense na sexual drive natin. So, minsan nakakalito yung adolescence, no? Kaya nga sinasabi ng mga parents natin 'pag adolescence, "Bata ka pa lang, chill ka lang," no? Pero nung adolescent tayo, "Hindi, mahal ko siya," mga gano'n. So, kaya nga lagi sinasabi ng mga ano, "Magunos dili ka 'pag adolescent, 'pag bata ka kasi medyo chaotic yung buhay mo nun." Pero 'pag magka-college na, no, for example sa inyo college na kayo, siguro nag-die down na 'yan, no? Medyo kalmado na kayo in some regards. Okay? Initial attraction is influenced by social norms, physical attractiveness, and process of interpersonal exchange. So kung kilala niyo si Robert Sternberg, meron siyang sinuggest that there are three components of love: intimacy, passion, and commitment. So the intimacy component refers to the feelings of closeness, connectedness, and bondness. Yung intimacy, yun yung parang friends, no? Friendship type, no? Na closeness and bondedness. So, yun yung first component. And then next component is yung passion, which is very physical, no? Sexual consummation. So, yung passionate ka sa love mo sa kanya or sa love mo sa taong to. Very romantic, very physical yung attraction. And then lastly is yung commitment. So, refers to the decision. So, decision to love and the commitment to maintain that love. So, itong tatlong component na to, kapag present siya, no, sa love mo, then congrats, no? Meron ka ng love of your life, no? But sometimes, no, merong isa na present, merong isa na hindi, merong isa na present din, or merong isa lang yung present, no? For example, sa attachment, no? Sa attachment, meron diyan sigurong passion, no? May passion diyan. I mean sa attachment, meron diyang commitment, I mean. So commitment, pero passion wala. Commitment and intimacy meron sa attachment. Pero wala siyang passion. Okay? And then, for example naman sa pag-intimacy lang, friendship 'yon. Pag commitment lang, yun nga, at parang semi-attachment lang siya. And then kapag fling-fling lang, no? O kaya FWB, alam niyo yung FWB? Friends with benefits, yan, ano lang, passion lang. Okay? So, ang ideal is dapat present yung tatlo. So, yung passion nandyan, yung commitment nandyan, and then yung intimacy is nandyan. So, friends kayo, at the same time, lovers kayo, at the same time, companions kayo for life. No? So, that is let's just say the ideal version of how love should be. So, tignan nyo, no? Observe nyo yung mga jowa ninyo. Friends nyo ba sila? no? Outside your romantic relationship, can you talk about other things just like as friends, no? Minsan nagtataka ako, no, parang sinasabi nila, bakit kailangan bang kaibiganin yung jowa mo? 'Di ba dapat yun yung yun yung first requirement, magkaibigan kayo. Kasi hindi naman araw-araw Pasko. I mean, hindi naman araw-araw mafi-feel mo yung passion with your partner, no? So what you will do? Anong gagawin yung 'pag ganun yung case, 'di ba? Ang awkward kung di kayo friends. So, ah, mas maganda kung gano'n, yung you can talk about some random stuff na hindi connected sa mga romantic life, no? So, and at the same time, if you want, mapag-uusapan niyo din yung mga romantic stuff. So, but anyway, it's different from everybody. So, siguro yung iba ayaw lang talaga nilang gano'n. Gusto lang talaga nila yung passion. Gusto lang talaga nila yung commitment. But I think it's better, no, to have all of these three to so that mas maging rewarding yung relationship ninyo. Okay? So, do you have any questions
Wala
so
po.
far? Okay. So next, we will talk about sexual orientation. So sexual orientation refers to a person's sexual and romantic interests, either people of the opposite sex or people of the same sex. So the most common sexual orientation is heterosexual, in which people are sexually attracted to members of the opposite sex. So sexual orientation is different from gender. Ah, nakaka-stress actually yung gender identity politics, no? Hindi actually ako mismo hindi ako very familiar sa mga different genders. Ang familiar lang ako is yun nga, sa sexual orientation, which can be either heterosexual, homosexual, or bisexual. Tapos sa mga gender naman, ang alam ko lang is yung lesbian, gay, male and female. Tapos of course yung transsexuals, yung mga trans. Beyond that, di ko na alam yung mga iba. Ang alam ko lang, ang mga alam ko lang is yung mga variations ng males and females and their sexual orientation. So, forgive me of my ignorance of those genders. So, I have a simple brain, I cannot keep up. But anyway, so sexual orientation, most common sexual orientation is yung heterosexual, no? Although of course nag-exist din yung homosexual. So homosexual orientation naman, they are attracted to the people with the same sex. So let's for example, ang lalaki attracted din sa lalaki, that is a gay man. And then kung ang babae is attracted sa kapwa niya babae, lesbians naman sila. Okay? So ang mga relationship na ganito, it's funny because even in these kinds of relationship, merong nagkakaroon talaga ng roles, no, na parang traditional roles. Merong sa isang homosexual relationship, for example, sa gay, minsan may mas lalaki and then may mas babae sa relationship na yan. Same with lesbians, no? May mas lalaki and then may mas babae. Hindi ko lang bakit ganun. Pero apparently, ganun pa rin. Kumbaga, doon pa rin bumabalik sa default yung relationship styles ng mga tao. Okay? So, wala lang. Gusto ko lang sabihin. But of course, they exist. And different talaga yung kanilang dynamics. No? As I mentioned, kahit sinabi ko yun nga, may mas lalaki, may mas babae. But at the same time, babae at babae pa rin sila. So, pag may problem talaga as a babae, of course, talaga lumalabas yung problema sa babae. Same with sa mga lalaki. Okay, so, sexual orientation, especially the homosexual orientation, is really a unique relationship, no? Or unique style of relationship that actually ngayon pinag-aaralan na siya. Pero before, hindi siya pinag-aaralan, even it's frowned upon, or even sa ibang bansa nga actually ngayon punishable by death pa yung homosexual activities. So, sad, but of course, here in the Philippines, at least, medyo tanggap na yung homosexuality. Okay? So, bisexual people naman are attracted to both men and women. And then yung transgender are, ang pinagkaiba ng transgender sa mga gay and lesbian, sa mga transgender, they feel like they are trapped in another gender, in another sex in another sex. Kumbaga, lalaki sila, pero feeling nila, babae sila. So, babae silang trap sa katawan ng isang lalaki. So, ganun yung mga transgender. So, some of them, no, they seek sex change operation. But of course, before na magkaroon ng sex change operation, dapat may counseling muna, may assessment muna, dapat stable sila psychologically, financially, and even socially, no? So, yun, may mga process supposedly yung mga yan. So, yung mga transgender people, they feel like they are trapped in the opposite sex, in the body of the opposite sex. So, transsexual people are those whose genitals are surgically removed and are fashioned as genitals of the desired gender. So pag once na nag-ano na sila, nag-transition na sila, ang tawag na nag-transition na sila, that is transsexual people na. Okay? So yun yung ganun yung ano natin, ganun yung term nila, transsexual. Okay? So transgender, wala pang sex change operation kahit nag-hormonal therapy yan, hindi pa siya transsexual. Transgender pa rin siya. Ngayon, pag nagkaroon na siya ng sex change operation, which is biological in nature, ayan, transsexual na siya. Okay? So, you have any questions regarding this sexual orientations?
Wala po, sir.
Okay, sige. Next is yung STIs, no? Sexually transmitted infections and early pregnancy. So sexually transmitted infections or STDs are diseases that are contracted primarily through sexual contact. So STIs are increasing health problems. Some STIs affect the sex organs themselves, whereas others have broader and life-threatening effects. So, example, AIDS. Okay? So the bacterial infections are treatable with antibiotics. So meron mga bacterial infections like syphilis, no? Ano pa ba? Syphilis is also known as tulo. Genital warts even. They can be actually pero yung genital warts caused by virus siya. Pero relatively harmless siya compared sa HIV or AIDS. So yung mga bacterial infections, yun, madali lang silang gamutin basta ma-detect sila early. Okay? So antibiotics lang. And then STIs commonly include human immunodeficiency virus or HIV, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome which is AIDS, gonorrhea. Ito gonorrhea ano siya, bacterial siya. Syphilis bacterial, chlamydia, it's also bacterial. Genital herpes is ano nga ba yung herpes? I'm not sure if viral siya ano. By the way, iba ang viral infection sa bacterial infection ha. Bacterial infection is caused by bacteria which are living organisms that are larger than viruses. Virus, on the other hand, are RNAs usually or DNAs lang sila. Parang mga codes lang sila. Tapos, i-hack nila, kumbaga, yung genes natin to cause some havoc. No? Like, for example, coronavirus. I-hack niya yung, ano natin, yung respiratory system natin para mag-produce ng maraming ganon. Tapos, mag-overdrive si immune system and then some will cause death. But anyway, so yung HIV and AIDS yun, it's viral infection siya. And HIV is actually targeting the immune system. So, pag nagkaroon ka ng HIV, usually that is already terminal. No? Maintenance na lang talaga ang kailangan para ma-slow down yung pagpo-progress ng HIV. Okay? So, anyone who is sexually active is at risk to sexually transmitted infection. So, hence, sexually active persons should practice safe sex. So, uh, ito actually sex education na to, no? Ang laging reklamo ng mga critics ng sex education is that ini-encourage daw yung mga bata or yung mga students na maging sexually active. Actually, that's not the case because if you are sexually active, no, o mataas ang sex drive mo biologically speaking, wala na makakapigil, no, sa isang tao to become sexually active. In fact, ang goal nitong ang goal nitong sex education na to is to actually teach this sexually active person to practice safe sex. Okay? Na pwede naman magkaroon ng safe sex. Pwede na maging sexually active. Wala namang masama doon. Basta alam mo yung consequence, of course. So, dapat mag-practice lang ng safe sex. So, using condoms, no? For males and even females, no? So, sa mga females na very active, they must always bring their own condom para yung partner nila, if ever man sabihin nakalimutan, o di bigyan. 'Di ba? Kasi yung yung sa condom nga, yun yung nagpo-protect against sa bacteria, ng mga bacterial infection, even HIV. Okay? So, kailangan safe sex. But of course, it is important to remember that not having sex can be the safest sex method to avoid all forms of sexually transmitted infections, as well as other sexual problems such as early pregnancy. Sabi nga nila, 'pag nakikipag-sex ang isang tao, kailangan alam niya yung consequence. Alam niya na kahit condoms pa siya or magkaroon ng, ibang mga reproductive control method, may chance pa din na makakapag-contact siya ng STI or STDs or even puwede niyang mabuntis yung isang babae or puwedeng mabuntis yung isang babae kahit condom pa 'yan. Kasi nga, nothing is 100%, okey? Hindi naman ibig sabihin na naka-condom ka is 100% safe ka. Malay mo biglang mapunit yung condom o kaya hindi mo napansin expired na pala. O kaya hindi mo napansin na binutas pala ng ng daga or something like that, 'di ba? So, it's really important na kailangan ready pa rin sa consequences. Kaya nga marami nag-a-advocate ng abstinence, 'no? That knowing human beings, no, abstinence is not effective. Okay, abstinence is hindi 'yun nagwo-work, no. Even pulling out, no, yung pulling out. Alam niyo yung pulling out, yung 'pag malapit na mag-orgasm yung lalaki, tatanggalin niya, yung ilalabas niya yung kanyang penis sa vagina. It doesn't work. Kasi meron namang 'di ba, meron tayong pre-ejaculation, yung tinatawag nga natin na 'pag nag-arouse yung lalaki meron ng semen. It's not safe. Pinaka-safe pa rin ang condom, 'no? 'Wag kayong maniwala sa mga tao na 'pag, "Hindi, ilabas mo lang, 'no, sa labas mo, iputok," sabi nga nila. Pero it's not effective, okay? So if you want safe, sex, bring some condom, okay? But of course, yun nga, sinasabi ko nga, kung hindi ko naman kayo ini-encourage, okay? Baka sabihin, ini-encourage kami ni sir na ganyan. Hindi ko kayo ini-encourage. Because again, there are some consequences such as yung early pregnancy and being pregnant or blessing na tinatawag, coping mechanism ng mga ibang tao, tatawagin nilang blessing yung mga bata. It's hard, okay? Mahirap ngang buhayin yung sarili natin tapos maglalabas pa tayo ng isang bata sa mundo na magsa-suffer, na hindi makakain, 'no? Na poproblemahin kung saan kakain, poproblemahin saan mag-aaral, poproblemahin kung meron bang pambili ng mga pagkain, meron bang pambili ng pang-aral, meron bang pambili ng damit, meron bang bahay na matutuluyan, 'no? So, 'yun, ano lang, ingat-ingat lang, okay? So, ayun, so one way to avoid early pregnancy is the use of contraception. So this refers to the methods that are used to prevent pregnancy. Some methods of contraception, such as condom, can be used, no, and used to prevent then STIs. So other common available contraception is yung IUD or intrauterine device, birth control injection, withdrawal method, which I do not recommend. And then calendar method, pwede na 'to, pero depende pa din kasi, calendar method works when the female is regular. And as I've mentioned kanina, hindi lahat ng babae ay may regular na menstruation. So, hindi siya laging applicable sa lahat. And then cervical mucus, 'no, tinitignan kung meron bang, mucus yung cervix usually by checking, 'no, kung, 'pag clear, if I'm not mistaken, 'pag clear yung mucus ng cervix or ng vagina, excuse me, parang mas mataas yung chance na hindi mabubuntis yung babae. Ngayon 'pag medyo cloudy, doon nabubuntis yung babae. I'm not sure dito, so correct me if I'm wrong. And then the Billings method, I'm not familiar with the Billings method. But yan, yung calendar method, no, it's not that effective kasi ano 'tong mga 'to, parang abstinence pa rin 'tong mga 'to, 'no? So pinaka-effective pa rin, cost effective pa rin yung, condom. So baka sabihin, "Sir, ang mahal naman ng condom." Mas mahal gumawa ng bata, 'no? Mas mahal yung magkaroon ng anak. Yung condom, magkano lang ba yung condom, 1,000, 'no? So ilang packs na yun. Tapos gagawa ka ng bata, magkano yun? So, it's not a good excuse, 'no? And then Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act of 2012, or otherwise known as RH Law, is a law that guarantees universal access to methods of contraception, fertility control, sexual education, and maternal care. So RH Bill or RH Law provides for prevention and treatment of HIV, AIDS, and other STIs or STDs. So yun yung reason kung bakit nandito yung lesson na to sa sa You Self. Okay? So, RH law aims to keep couples, especially women, well informed about available family planning methods that they can freely use depending on their needs. So as well, it aims to promote adolescent and youth health and propagate information and sexuality and reproductive health through proper care and sex education. Kasi sex education is still the most effective way, no, to prevent sexual transmitted infections and diseases and also early pregnancy, no. Nakakatawa kasi sinasabi ng mga critics ng RH law na pag nilagay mo yung RH law, mas lalong gaganahan yung mga bata na subukan yung sex. When in fact, actually, it's the opposite eh. Kasi once na alam na nila kung ano yung magiging consequence, once na alam nila kung ano yung consequences ng or yung logic, no? Or yung process ng sex, eh mas magiging maingat sila, no? Akala kasi ng mga critics ng RH law, tuturuan ng mga bata ng mga sex positions, which is not. Tinuruan ko ba kayo? Hindi, di ba? So, wala namang ganun. Ang tinuturo dito is yung biological processes, no? Tinuturo din dito yung mga options na available if ever man gusto mo maging active and then gusto mo pa rin maiwasan yung mga consequence na to. Okay? So, wala naman sinasabi na, oh, gawin nyo to. Nakakatawa lang kasi, bakit? Bakit ang tagal bago in-approve yung RH law? Tatandaan ko to, college yata ako na na-approve. No? Imagine, college na ako na na-approve to. So, ayun. Pero pinag-uusapan na to, elementary pa lang ako. Okay, so that's it for our lecture about sexual self. No? Do you have any questions ba in mind or do you have any clarifications?
Wala po, sir.
Sure kayo?
Yes po.
Okay. Kumusta naman yung mga ano ninyo? Hindi naman kayo, ayan,
Sir, ano lang po, curious lang po. Di ba po
Hmm.
yung condoms is mostly on males po? Meron din po nag-exist sa mga females po.
Yes, merong female condom na tinatawag. Parang ano siya, mas bigger version, no? Kasi syempre may ano siya.
Pinapasok sa
Ah,
yun yung pinapasok sa kanila nun tapos yung
oo. Parang reverse condom siya. So ipapasok sa kanila and then ano. Meron din tayong anti-rape female condom na tinatawag. I think nakita niyo na 'yan sa online, no? Yung parang may mga teeth, no? So it allows insertion but it doesn't allow yung pulling out. Pag pull out mo, sasama yung condom tapos may mga ngipin 'yun na mag-stuck dun sa penis ng lalaki. May ganun, no? Very barbaric pero rapists are barbaric so it's a tie. Ano pa? May tanong pa? Hindi naman kayo na-awkwardan? Hindi naman kayo... Dapat di kayo ma-awkward dito. Matanda na kayo eh. At alam niyo na to. No? So, don't be afraid. No? Don't be ano tawag dito? Huwag kayo masyadong mahiya. No? When it comes to sexual reproductive or sexual reproductive health. Kasi it's a very important thing, no? Especially kapag tatanda na kayo. Mas magandang ready na kayo, kumbaga meron na kayong alam even before nyo papasukan, no? Kumbaga may mga dalang bala kayo bago kayo pumunta sa gera. Kasi kung pupunta kayong gera, di kayo prepared sa kung ano man ang nandun sa gera na yon, wala kayong bala, wala kayong baril, no? Talagang madedecimate kayo, parang yung sa Russia. No? Matatalo kayo. So mas magandang mas lamang ang may alam. Sabi nga ni sino nagsabi nun? Si Drew ba? Basta yun. Yun lang naman yung dito sa sexual self. Okay? So, if wala nang tanong, wala nang concerns, wala nang clarification, I think we're done. So I will stop the recording.